Welcome to Damn Good Movie Memories with your host, Brian Davis. This podcast is the cure for your long commute and super boring workday.
Thank you.
Meet Dad. He's a real man.
Got a beer? 7 o'clock in the morning. Scotch?
An all-out go-getter. But when his job pulled the plug on him...
I'm fired? You son of a dude!
They threw a switch.
Go, running late. Yeah, okay. Good luck.
And he became the lady of the house. It sure looks like he got a terrific deal.
Honey, if you call and I'm not here, I'll be at the gym or at the gun club.
Exercise. And relaxation. Good home cooking. Arts and crafts.
Kenny! Don't paint your sister!
And fun and games with the neighbors.
Are these any good?
We got 2 pair. We've got plenty.
That's when he was forced to face the bare facts. His new job is a mother. Michael Keaton
Where's Bobby keep the extra diapers?
and Terri Garr in Mr. Mom, a mother of a comedy.
Hey there, it's Brian Davis, and for this week's episode, we're going to cover the movie Mr. Mom from 1983. The studio was 20th Century Fox. The release date was August 19th, 1983. The running time, 91 minutes. The rating was PG. Not sure about the budget. Couldn't find the details about what the budget was. But the box office took in $64.7 million, making it the 9th ranked movie of 1983. Rotten Tomatoes gives it 82% fresh from 22 reviews. The critics' consensus is Mr. Mom makes up for its stereotype-driven premise with a sweet script and charming work from a well-matched cast led by Michael Keaton and Terri Garr. Roger Ebert at the time gave it 2 out of 4 stars, and here's his review. People have been living through the basic idea for Mr. Mom for years. It's too bad this movie doesn't feel more like their lives and less like the pilot for a TV sitcom. The movie's about a well-paid Ford executive who gets laid off and can't find work. Then his wife finds a job at an advertising agency, and her years of experience in the front lines of consumerism makes her a big hit with the clients. Meanwhile, her husband stays home to keep house and raise the children. There are so many genuine comedy ideas, and not a few provocative ones, rising out of this situation that it's hard to see how the filmmakers could go wrong. But go wrong they do with gimmicky sight gags and awkward fantasy sequences, stock characters, and unbelievable situations. What a lost opportunity. That's especially true because the cast is so promising. Michael Keaton, a kinetic young actor who gives the uncanny impression of being able to think faster than he can talk, plays the husband. Terri Garr, Dustin Hoffman's other girlfriend in Tootsie, is the wife, and Martin Mull is the snarky president of the advertising agency with plans for promoting Garr into his own life. Now, if they'd taken these characters and their situation and followed through on the implications on a believable level, they might have come up with a true human comedy. Instead, everything is pushed too far, situations are overwritten and overdirected, and the movie is desperate enough to throw in the vacuum cleaner with minds of their own, seductive next-door neighbors, and a team of local repairmen who show up on cue and look straight out of TV commercials. God knows there's enough in ordinary housework to make a comedy out of, especially if the hotshot husband is trying to learn how to run the house. Do we really need a scene in which he cheerfully puts 4 cups of detergent into the washer? Enough real things can go wrong around the house without the movie needing a monosyllabic female TV repairman and an exterminator who is afraid of bugs. Meanwhile, at the ad agency, Terri Garr is also having her problems with a script that strives for the predictable. She's brought into a conference on a tuna account. The agency's failed campaign presentations line the walls. She shoots them down and then comes up with a bright idea. Offer a 50-cent discount for the duration of the recession. Brilliant, eh? Except, wait a minute, the other campaigns on the bulletin board don't even look like professional presentations. They look like scrawls out of Mad Magazine. And her bright idea is obviously only in the movie because if she has a bright idea, you see, she'll get the job and attract the boss. No attempt is made to be perceptive or original about the idea of a housewife returning to the job wars as an ad executive. Mr. Mom gives itself away with its title, I think. The title is so obviously a concept, a brief encapsulation of what the movie would be about, that all the script needed to deliver was manufactured artificial situations inspired not by the experiences of joblessness or role reversal, but by memories of old TV shows. They had a great idea here. It's too bad they didn't follow it through on a human level, instead making it feel made up and artificial and twice removed from the everyday experience it pretends to be about. And that's the end of the review. So I don't often disagree with Roger Ebert, but I definitely do disagree with him for his review of Mr. Mom at the time. Now, I may be coming from a different place in this case. So when I first saw the film, I was a kid. I was probably 7 or 8 years old. So nothing I saw in this film was predictable to me. How could it be? All movies seemed fresh and exciting at the time. So while I understand where a veteran of film, especially a movie critic, might be burnt out on a premise like Mr. Mom, I definitely was not, and judging by the box office totals at the time, neither were the moviegoers. I still think the movie holds up really well today, mostly because Michael Keaton and Terri Garr are so likable in their roles. Alright, let's get into the main cast. Michael Keaton plays Jack Butler, and Keaton had been acting mostly in bit roles on TV throughout the 1970s, but his big break came in 1982's Night Shift, co-starring with Henry Winkler, and it was directed by Ron Howard. He was hilarious as Winkler's friend running a brothel out of a city morgue, and from there, he never looked back and was one of the top comedic actors of the 1980s, and then finished up the decade starring in the huge hit playing Bruce Wayne in Batman. Terri Garr plays Carolyn Butler, and Garr definitely was a veteran in Hollywood, starting her career in the early 1960s when she was 19. She appeared in minor roles in a few films and TV shows, but her big break was in the 1974 Mel Brooks film Young Frankenstein. Other popular films she appeared in included Oh God with George Burns, Close Encounters of the Third Kind with Richard Dreyfuss, The Black Stallion, and then the aforementioned Tootsie. Martin Mull plays Ron Richardson, and Mull started as a comedian and a musician, often performing comedy and satirical songs. His break into Hollywood was through the 1970s TV show Mary Hartman. My other favorite film that Mull appeared in prior to Mr. Mom was as Chris Makepeace's father in the 1980 film My Bodyguard. Other great actors in this film include Ann Gillian, Jeffrey Tambor, Christopher Lloyd, and Miriam Flynn. The director was Stan Dragoti, and prior to Mr. Mom, Dragoti's first major film he directed was the campy vampire flick Love at First Bite with George Hamilton from 1979, and he would go on to direct 3 more movies, 2 of which I own: The Man with One Red Shoe with Tom Hanks, and She's Out of Control with Tony Danza, and then Necessary Roughness with Scott Bakula. I'm not going to tell you which 2 out of 3 I own, but one is coming up. The screenwriter was John Hughes, and this is one of the few cases where the screenwriter ended up being almost more popular than anyone associated with the film. 1983 was a great year for John Hughes, as in addition to writing Mr. Mom, he also wrote another classic comedy, National Lampoon's Vacation. The year before, he wrote the underrated National Lampoon's Class Reunion. Hughes would go on to be one of the most celebrated film directors and writers in the 1980s. Alright, let's get into the making of the film. So while the premise of the film may seem normal today, in the early 1980s, many men were losing their jobs and women were entering the full-time workforce more than ever in history. Men were more and more becoming like stay-at-home fathers, and today, both spouses are often in the workforce, and this seems like the norm. But this wasn't the case in the early 1980s, which made this film rather refreshing at the time. It was kind of like how 9 to 5 was refreshing to see the female point of view in the workplace. Lauren Schuler Donner, who was the producer on Mr. Mom, had read John Hughes' work in National Lampoon magazine and thought he was very funny. So she called him and connected with him over the phone, and they became friends. After discussing various stories for potential movies, Hughes told Donner stories about when his wife had gone on a business trip and he was in charge of his 2 young boys. Hughes had never gone grocery shopping and knew nothing about how to take care of kids on his own. He had been with his wife since college, and before that he lived at home, so his mom just took care of him. So he really was like Michael Keaton's character in the film. He wrote about all of his experiences taking care of the kids and gave Lauren his notes, and she loved them. He had 80 pages of script for Mr. Mom that he gave to her. And even the movie Vacation was based on his family vacations. So much for Ebert's review. Michael Keaton's agent recommended him to Donner and told her to see his work from the movie Night Shift. Donner adored his role in that movie and immediately offered the Jack Butler role to him. You know, Michael Keaton is one of those rare actors that can do serious and funny and not miss a beat, much like Cary Grant. He's truly a movie star. Terri Garr was also perfect in this role, as she, like Keaton, is a wonderful comedic actor, and the two really had an on-screen chemistry together. Garr could easily play a mom and a working woman, plus she was beautiful, all of which is a winning combination when starring in films. Not to forget them, but the kids in the film are all terrific. They don't seem like they're acting, which makes the movie seem real and fresh, and they deliver their lines perfectly. Also, I was about the same age as the kids in the film at the time, so the movie always felt real to me. There's a great story about the director, Stan Dragoti, who by all accounts was very well liked by the cast, and his personality came through on this film. So Miriam Flynn, who played Annette, didn't like the sweater she was wearing on a particular scene. So Dragoti, who had a fashion background, noticed a woman walking across the street with a trendy sweater, for the time, and went up to the woman and asked her if they could use her sweater for the film they were shooting. And as it turned out, that woman with the trendy sweater happened to be Patty Duke. They were also filming in Los Angeles, which is why there were movie stars walking around. So they wanted to film the movie, at least the house scenes, in Chicago because John Hughes was a Midwestern guy. But it was too expensive to film there, so the house had to be in Los Angeles. So Donner found a house that looked like, a Midwest house. And the owners of the house ended up getting a whole new paint job and landscaping for their place due to lending it to the film. However, other parts of the house was actually a soundstage, especially when the house gets destroyed by various scenes like Jaws the vacuum cleaner. And Jillian normally had longer hair and normally was blonde, but she had recently cut and changed her color to a brunette for a TV series she was going to star on. It was perfect for Mr. Mom, actually, because the main female character, by Terri Garr, was already blonde with long hair, so there was a discrepancy between the two. According to Donner, while the reviews are now considered good, at the time, as I was mentioning before with Ebert, they weren't great. However, the film was a success and definitely helped Michael Keaton and John Hughes get their career off and running. So often this happens with revisionist history. Just look at all of those album reviews from Rolling Stone magazine. They hated Black Sabbath, they hated Led Zeppelin, then magically they're all in their top whatever lists now and they rewrite their reviews. Yes, that happens often. All right, let's just get right into the movie. The opening credits score sound like a combination of an 80s soap opera and a typical TV sitcom at the time. And interestingly enough, the executive producer for this film was Aaron Spelling, who was a top-flight TV executive, also Tori Spelling's father, for my much younger listeners who remember Beverly Hills 90210. The movie starts like an average morning for the Butler family with Carolyn, who is, of course, Terri Garr, waking up the kids, getting ready for school, and while Jack, Michael Keaton, gets ready for work, Garr is a stay-at-home mom while Keaton works at an auto plant in Detroit. Early on, we see the two boys, and they're acting like typical young kids. So Garr tells Alex, who's the older boy, to wake up his brother, who's Kenny, but don't touch his woobie. So the woobie is Kenny's favorite thing in the world, it's like his security blanket. So Alex wakes up Kenny by, of course, grabbing Kenny's woobie, and then there's a third child that's an infant named Megan. Keaton, who is half awake, is brushing his teeth and gets into the shower with his pajama bottoms still on. So it's subtle things like this that, the scenes that make Mr. Mom so wonderful and funny. So everything seems like your average middle-class family as Keaton heads to work with his carpool buddies. And the character actors are just top-notch as Keaton's coworkers are Jeffrey Tambor, his character name is Jinx, and Christopher Lloyd, who plays Larry. And this is the first time I saw Christopher Lloyd in a movie, and soon I would adore his character Doc in Back to the Future. And of course, he was also known for his role as Reverend Jim on the TV series Taxi. So Keaton plays a likable guy who the workers on the assembly line seem to like, even though he's, like an office suit. However, the plot takes the expected turn when Keaton finds out that everyone is getting let go.
Larry! Larry! Are you crazy? What did you tell me this morning I was being canned?
I couldn't say anything until it was official! Wait a minute, guys, wait! Jeez. You did it, didn't you? You fired these guys after all they contribute.
Jack.
Ah, don't jack me. After the support.
Jack.
Oh, man, after the devotion they gave you. You're fired, too. Now, you fired me. I'm fired? You son of a... No! You what?
Not fired. Technically furloughed. Why don't you give me a break? I'm telling you, there's blood all over my slide rule.
Part of it's yours, Jinx.
Oh, come on. Something's gonna turn up. You guys are terrific engineers. You're too damn good not to catch on somewhere.
Where am I gonna catch on, Jinx? Where are we gonna catch on? Nagasaki? The Roaring Valley?
You're not exactly walking out of here empty-handed. You got your full severance, huh? You got your profit sharing. Here, guess what? Surprise. Full pro rata refund for this month's gas.
Great. So I have one more thing I want.
What's that?
Disability!
Oh no! Wait, Larry! Oh no! Larry! Come on, Larry! Come on!
Keep that sense of humor, buddy. It's critical.
Hey! Hold it! Larry! Hey! Get the Valium!
That last scene is so well played by Keaton, and it's hilarious because he acts indignant about his coworkers getting the axe before he realizes he's getting canned as well. And when he finds out, it's typical Keaton when he loses, he turns on a dime and tries to choke Jeffrey Tambor. Christopher Lloyd is also priceless in this scene when he loses it. So Keaton comes home to find the kids and Terri Garr trying to make him feel better. And there's a funny, almost throwaway line when Garr says that they're having Colonel Chicken for dinner. And then Keaton sheepishly said, "Can we afford that?" And then the older boy Alex hilariously said, "Let's enjoy it. It may be our last." Great John Hughes dialogue. So after dinner, Keaton and Garr chat about what they're going to do, and Garr suggests she could go to work since she has an advertising degree. So Keaton, feeling sort of stereotypically threatened that he wouldn't be able to find a job as quickly, sets up a somewhat friendly bet with Garr that he will find a job before her. And so he puts up $100 to her $1 who will get the job first. And of course, Terri Garr wins, as the next scene we see her starting her new job. I think if this movie was made today, the movie would be, way too long. It'd be over 2 hours long, and they would have gone through like an interview process for her getting a job. Instead, the movie's perfect. It's brisk. It cuts out the unnecessary scenes. So Garr is off to her new advertising gig, and we get to see Michael Keaton hilariously try to drop off the kids at school and then go grocery shopping. These scenes are priceless. They were my favorite as a kid, and they still make me laugh today. Something like, "South to drop off, moron!" Greatest line ever.
Dad, you passed it.
Past what? We're right on time.
But Dad, you're doing it wrong. Mommy doesn't do it like this.
We're gonna do it the Jack Butler method. What is this? This is nuts. Why are they all honking?
Because you're doing it wrong.
Tell me I'm doing it wrong. I know how to do this.
Hi, Jack. I'm Annette.
Hi.
You're doing it wrong.
See?
See, this is what I tell all my new mommies. We enter from the south and we exit from the north. And then we do just the reverse when we pick up. Swear, little ones don't have to walk between the cars to get to the learning facility. Okay, moving out. And remember, south to drop off, north to pick
Pick
up.
them up. Okay, it's a good system.
South to drop off, moron!
So, by the way, Annette is played by the actress Miriam Flynn, and she is probably best known for playing Randy Quaid's wife, Cousin Eddie, in the Vacation movies with Chevy Chase. Terri Garr's day doesn't go much better as she is overwhelmed going into the workforce in a huge high-rise office building for a top advertising firm, and immediately Carolyn Seymour, who plays Eve, is less than impressed with Garr and gives her the third degree. So Garr is thrown into an advertising pitch meeting. This is a typical conference room for the 1980s, filled with lunch wrappers and cigarette smoke. So everyone is giving their pitches for the Schooner Tuna account. Nobody is taking Garr seriously, as she seems kind of naive to the group. You know, these people are veterans trying to come up with a new advertising campaign, and she tries to make her thoughts known, but gets laughed out of the room. Martin Mull plays Ron Richardson. He is the head of the advertising firm, and he's perfect for this role. Eventually, you realize what a sleaze Ron is, and Mull plays this just perfectly. You truly hate his character in the film, and that is terrific acting. Next, we get another hilarious scene as Michael Keaton tries to go grocery shopping. It's absolutely a classic.
Hey, Kenny, where are the eggs?
Over there, Dad.
I have the right of way.
Right. Sorry. Here. Settle out of court.
Oh, weirdo.
Clean up on aisle 4.
Aisle 4, check.
Clean up in produce!
I'm sorry.
Got it.
I'm sorry. I didn't... Kenny, did I tell you not to touch the grapefruit?
Next,
May I have a half a pound of ham?
boiled, baked, smoked, salt cured, sugar cured, prosciutto or Westphalian.
All right, forget it. Just tell you what. Just give me a half pound of salami.
Italian, kosher, hard pork, beef, cotto or what?
Just get bologna, mister.
I'll tell you what. Just give me a quarter pound of cheese.
American, blue, cream, cottage, Gouda, Edam, provolone, Romano, Swiss. You have your entire cheddar family.
Can you run the hams back one more time? I just want to... Stay right here, okay? Coming back.
Half pound of salami, half pound of Swiss, half pound of Virginia ham, 2 celery. Oh, I think these are on special.
Doesn't matter. Sorry, really.
Let me check. Are these Kotex Maxi Pads on special?
Never mind, Derb. Sorry, forget it.
Kotex, 19 cents off.
Thanks. It's all right, Ken. My baby. Who are you?
Steven.
Kenny! Ken!
Mom!
Here, eat the spaghetti.
Spaghetti on aisle 9.
Spaghetti!
Spaghetti aisle 9, check.
Kenny! Hey, I'll trade you my kid for yours.
Thank you. I don't have any kids.
Double back that, please.
Do you see my little girl?
Yeah, she's adorable.
She's lost.
You left a child in the shopping cart? One lost child.
Lost child alert.
There's your Daddy. She's yours, and I'm Joan.
Hi, thanks.
Carolyn told me you'd be around.
Yeah.
Can I get your hand?
You can give me both of them. I don't know what the hell I'm doing.
Clean up on aisle 7.
Irv, we were never in aisle 7. I'm telling you, honest.
That last scene was brilliant on many levels. It's well-paced, Keaton's delivery and mannerisms are just fabulous. The little throwaway lines, like when the older woman who crashes into Keaton's cart calls him a weirdo after he gives her a bag of chips to settle out of court. And then when Michael Keaton is trying to order from the deli and you hear the woman say, "Just get some bologna, mister." The checker at the store is none other than Edie McClurg, who is a great character actress. She's best known for playing the car rental woman when Steve Martin goes off about not having his car in Planes, Trains, and Automobiles, and she also plays Ed Rooney's secretary in Ferris Bueller's Day Off, all John Hughes movies. Another great part is Keaton trying to hide that he's buying maxi pads, and then of course there's a price check and McClurg has to announce on the loudspeaker if they're on sale. Keaton hilariously grabs the mic to say, "Never mind, Irv." And for all that hassle, he saved 19 cents, but has a wealth of embarrassment. It's just a brilliant scene. We are introduced then to Joan at the grocery store, played by Ann Jillian. She's immediately seems like the town flirt, and you can see that she has a thing for Michael Keaton right off the bat. The next day, we arguably get the most famous scene in the movie when Martin Mull comes to pick up Garr at the house for a business trip. So you will always know if someone is an 80s movie buff if they ever say to you, 220 or 221, and then you have to reply, well, whatever it takes.
Somebody must have died.
Why?
There's a limousine out front.
Oh. Hey, you didn't say anything about a limousine last night.
Oh, Ron said he was sending a car, but he didn't say anything about a limo. I'll tell him I'll be right down.
Ron?
Oh, Ron.
Hey, Ron. Maybe. Oh. Damn it.
Well, hello down there. Why don't you run and tell your mommy that Mr. Richardson is here?
Stay right here. I'm not supposed to let strangers in the house.
Just waiting for Carolyn.
Well, Ron, you know women.
Yeah, I like to think I do. On a beer? 7 o'clock in the morning.
Scotch?
Not during working hours. Oh, I'm sorry, pal.
No problem. Come on over here, Ron. Let me show you what I'm doing. Taking advantage of some of the time off to add a whole new wing on here. I'm going to rip these walls out and, of course, rewire it.
Yeah, you're going to make it all 220?
Yeah, 220, 221, whatever it takes.
Well, you sound like a pretty handy guy.
This is a great scene many years later where Michael Keaton was on David Letterman talking about 220 and 221.
That's all.
So, kind of now, in light of the Academy Awards the other night, one of the great, memorable, often quoted movie lines is from Mr. Mom, you and Terri Garr and Martin Mull and others, and you're going to rewire the house. And Martin Mull says to you, what are you going to use, the something something or the something something? And you say 220, 221, whatever it takes. Right. And tell us now about that scene. You're a guy out of work. You got to take care of the kids.
Right. It was actually, the movie was a little bit ahead of its time because at the time the economy was not good, and the idea of a dad, a man, taking over the household thing, it was maybe not revolutionary, but close to it. It was, kind of groundbreaking in that sense. And so there's, in this scene, Martin Mull's coming over to take, Martin's really funny, and was coming over to take Terri on a business trip in a private jet, and I remember doing the scene, and we were always...
You're home with the kids. Your wife's out flying the world in a private jet.
And I thought, the guy probably feels very emasculated, sure. and that wasn't necessarily written in, so I'm constantly thinking, how do I make this scene work where I'm scrambling around? So at the last, we were getting ready to shoot, and I said to the prop guy, I said, get me a chainsaw. So he said, and I'm thinking, he's going to go, I can't get you a chainsaw. He has a chainsaw.
Of course he did, yeah.
And then was even better, he holds up these bad plastic protective glasses. You want these? And I went, oh yeah, I definitely want those. so that's how that happened. And then I tried to act real, like a dude. And he comes up and he's doing the scene, and he's like, Martin's so great. He's like sussing me out, knowing I'm, like very insecure at this point. And so we run the scene a couple of times, and he goes, what are you gonna do? What are you gonna do there? And he's asking me things I have no idea. Mm-hmm. The character has no idea what he's even talking about. So he says, you know what you ought to say? He said, when I ask you how you're gonna wire it, just say, 220, 221, whatever it takes. Which killed me. Which killed me. I just thought this is hysterical.
Going back to the actual scene in Mr. Mom, Keaton's absolutely hilarious. He's got this maniacal look on his face when he enters the house with a chainsaw. He's got like a Detroit Lions hat on backwards. Asks Ron if he wants a beer, scotch. Also the look that Terri Garr gives him when she first sees him is priceless. We quickly find out that Garr was hired pretty much because Mull's got the hots for her. So while she has to deal with that, Keaton has to fight off Aunt Jillian and all the appliances in the house. The vacuum cleaner is named Jaws and it runs on its own. He tries to do the laundry only to have the machine go haywire, and then all of the repair men happen to arrive at the house to fix things at the same time. This scene was pretty much copied from the original Freaky Friday from 1976 with Jodie Foster.
I don't think we can fit anymore.
Sure we can. Let's get some more in there. You know, when your dad was in the Army, we had to run a tight ship.
There were no ships in the Army.
Just put this laundry in there.
Dad, can we fix lunch?
Sure. Anything but tuna. Right here.
Butler?
Hi.
You got a problem with your horizontal hold?
I don't know.
Your wife says you do.
Well, she ought to know. Come on in. I'll be right back.
I get $45 an hour.
Oh, Megan. You're making me crazy here, baby. You're making me nuts. Yeah, I love you, but you're making me crazy. Stay. Hey, Kenny, go keep an eye on your sister. Play with her or something, all right? Go watch TV.
You want some chili?
No, thanks. Hey, where's your mom keep the vacuum cleaner?
You mean Jaws?
Your mom calls the vacuum cleaner Jaws?
Yeah,
Where is it?
over there.
Jaws.
Exterminator!
I can't hear you.
Exterminator!
What?
Exterminator!
Go to the front door.
Okay.
Come in.
Hi, I'm here to adjust the pilot on your water heater.
Okay, by me.
Hi. Anything wrong?
No, fine. Fine.
a baby chili?
The vacuum cleaner had a remote control motor put into it, and it was run by a crew member, and that's why it could go on its own. So even as a non-parent, I knew that infants should not eat chili. Keaton is priceless when he has to change the diapers, as he's basically wearing a makeshift hazmat suit.
Where's Bobby keep the extra diapers? Hey! Cowards. Holy mackerel! Oh, man.
In the meantime, Keaton is still trying to find jobs, but the workforce is pretty depressed and jobs are sparse. So next we get the infamous company picnic, where Keaton is talked into joining one of the races in which it's obvious that Mull has to win every year. Keaton realizes that, even though he knows he could win, he better not for the good of his wife's job. What's great about that scene is the terrific use of Chariots of Fire theme in the company race. It's also a great scene because it shows how much Keaton loves Garr and also displays what an arrogant scumbag Martin Mull is in the film. So then Keaton is starting to lose touch with reality as he's getting addicted to daytime soap operas.
Please kiss me once more.
You know where that's going to lead to, don't you?
I want it to lead there. I want to feel alive again.
I can't believe people actually watch this stuff.
So I'm not the father of the child. Well, that's some consolation. Just who is the culprit?
You don't want to know.
Well, let me guess. Probably the deceased Mr. Cashman.
Ha! Wrong, Vic. Wrong. Nikki doesn't even love you. Come on, Vic, open your eyes, buddy. She's been making it with your friend Kevin.
You mean Kevin Bankroft?
That's exactly who I mean. Watch, she's gonna blame it on you now.
You threw me at him. You let him know it was perfectly fine to take me to San Francisco, only he took me to bed first, and it's your fault.
Did I tell you? I knew it. Gee, wake up, Vic. She already buried one husband.
Go on, Nikki. Do you think that I'm going to let that get into the record for everybody to see? Or for the child to find out later on?
I think we'll just have a no-fault divorce. We don't get along. It's certainly true enough.
No, Nikki, I won't do it. Listen, I've been thinking about this.
Dad,
Yeah?
Well, wait till
this is cold and the cheese isn't hardly melted down.
we'll try everything
Okay.
we can to make this work.
Yep.
I mean, I've got a stake in this kid. And I'm going to stick around to make sure that he's okay.
There you go.
What you're really interested in is the baby, huh? The baby's more important than Carolyn.
That's right. My own flesh and blood.
Oh, Kevin, you're such a fool.
That's right, Nikki. I'm a fool.
Daddy, my woobie's ripped.
Ken, you know what? Maybe it's time to get rid of the woobie, all right?
No.
Okay, all right. Give me it. Give me it.
And that'll help me too.
Good.
He wants that baby. It's more than just pride, Nikki. There's all too much
There you
easy
go.
marriage.
Good as new.
It's nice.
Okay, listen, I'd appreciate it if you guys kept it down, okay? Because Nikki's gonna get the results of her blood test back today.
Well, that might happen.
Is it Kevin's baby?
Given this every opportunity.
We're not sure.
Kevin's a skunk.
Kevin gets all the girls.
He sure got Nikki.
I love how while he's ironing clothes, he uses the same iron to heat Alex's grilled cheese. Or he uses Kenny's toy sword to smash the rogue popcorn maker. So Keaton is becoming one of the girls, as now he's having a ladies' night with Terri Garr's friends.
I'm gonna bet 25-cent Wheaties rebate. And I'm gonna raise you Van de Kamp's pork and beans and Ovaltine.
Well, I'm going to see your 25-cent Wheaties rebate and raise you 2 tender victuals $1 offs. That's it for me. I'll fold.
Jack, why are you dealing me this garbage? I'm out. This is so much more fun than bridge, Jack. Thanks so much for thinking of it.
Girls.
Come on, are you going to play cards or flap your gums?
Flap my gums.
It's getting ugly in here.
Hey, come on.
All right. I will see you your tender victuals, and I'll raise you a 50-cent Yoplait and a $2 rebate on a Domino's pizza and 2 for 1 Sun Pure frozen entree. How about that?
Uh-oh.
It's serious poker.
Any of you ever try those Sun Pure frozen entrees? Oh, my dog wouldn't eat them.
I love them. I do.
I'm calling you with the 25-cent new and improved ban roll-on and 2 50-cent triple-ply hefty bag offers. What do you got?
She's bluffing. This is it. Are these any good?
Well, we've got 2 pair. You've got plenty.
Hi, kids.
Hi, Mom!
Mommy's Carolyn.
Pizza, huh? Yeah.
Oh, no, don't get up.
Geez, that late already?
Well, we were just finishing,
Yeah.
Carolyn.
Oh, don't be silly. Don't get up. Oh, pizza. Well, I got a ton of work to do. I'll go upstairs.
Keaton and Garr finally have it out as Keaton is not doing well as a stay-at-home dad.
Service, madame.
Oh, thanks, but Ron gave me this tuna presentation to do, and I'm really way behind.
Well, you gotta eat something, honey.
Well, if I wanted something to eat, Jack, I would have come down and had something to eat with you and your girlfriends.
All right. Let's get into it.
Get into what, Jack?
Get into this. The house is a mess, Jack. The kids are a mess, Jack. You're a mess, Jack. Did I leave anything else out? Want to talk about the beard? All right. The beard's in its transitional stage right now, that's all. When it comes in, it's gonna look great. And it's gonna look like a movie star, what's his name?
Orson Welles?
No, Orson Welles. Oh, I get it. Fat jokes, right? That's real funny. Yeah, I've put on a couple of pounds. So what? Come on. What else do you have?
You want to talk about this shirt for a second, Jack?
All right.
You've been wearing this shirt around the house for about 2 weeks now. It can walk around by itself. Why don't you retire that thing to the Dry Cleaning Hall of Fame, huh?
Because it's a comfortable shirt.
Jack, take a look at yourself. You've really thrown in the towel, honey.
My brain is like oatmeal. I yelled at Kenny today for coloring outside the lines. Megan and I are starting to watch the same TV shows, and I'm liking them. I'm losing it.
Honey, I know what you're talking about. I've been there myself, all right?
Well, if you were so unhappy, why didn't you say something about it?
Because I wasn't unhappy. Look, maybe I was a little confused, maybe I was a little frustrated, but I knew what I was doing was important because it means something to raise decent human beings. And what saw me through was pride. I had pride in this house, I had pride in my kids, and I had pride in being Mrs. Jack Butler. Where are you going?
I'm going downstairs and sleep on the fat couch if I can get through the door.
You'll be sure and take pride in some of that fat, Porky.
There's a great fantasy scene where Keane now becomes part of the soap opera he's addicted to.
Jack. How could you? And Joan? Joan, you're supposed to be my friend.
He's too much man to be left alone, Carolyn.
Really?
Honey, what? Please, Carolyn, come on. It's just one kiss.
I'll bet.
What about the kids? The kids are just outside.
I've thought of the kids. The kids won't hear a thing.
Shoot me. Shoot me. You're right. God knows I'm guilty. I deserve it.
Tell me something, Jack. What did it, huh? The boredom? The repetition? The days, one flowing into the next? The loneliness? Well, I did it, Jack. I did it for 8 years.
Don't you think I know?
Say goodbye, darling.
What? Oh, shit. I love this shirt.
Couldn't hold on, could you, Jack? I was coming by to call you back.
Holy cow. What you use, a 38?
38, 39, whatever it took. Bye, darling.
Tough luck, Jeff.
Jack.
You bet.
Jack.
See, it's funny, Roger Ebert bashing all these scenes, but to me, that's what makes this movie very unique and fun, and I still enjoy it today. Eventually, Keaton has an epiphany and decides to shave off his beard that he's been growing and get some self-respect back. It's another great use of a classic movie theme, this time Gonna Fly Now from Rocky. Once Keaton cleans himself up, this leads to a heartfelt scene with Kenny and his woobie.
Listen, Ace. You and I have to have a man-to-man talk here about your woobie. Your woobie's looking bad, bud. Now, wait a minute. Now, listen to me. I understand that you little guys start out with your woobies and you think they're great, and they are. They are terrific. But pretty soon, a woobie isn't enough. You're out in the street trying to score an electric blanket or maybe a quilt. And the next thing you know, you're strung out on bedspreads, Ken. That's serious. Now, give me the woobie.
No.
Kenny, come on, man.
No.
Okay, give it to me for a couple of days. If it doesn't work, you got the woobie back. Please. You got a lot of guts.
Can I have a moment to myself, please?
Absolutely. You got it.
You had to do it.
Allison Jaffe, who plays Kenny, is great in this scene, and Keaton, is always amazing. It's funny, and it's a charming scene at the same time. Of course, Alex, who is played by Frederick Kohler, gets the perfect punchline at the end. And speaking of the boys' room, I love that there's an old Eric Hipple poster in the room who used to play quarterback for the Detroit Lions in the 1980s. Garr is doing terrific with her job, and her idea of the new tuna campaign is picked by the head of the tuna company. And since she understands what it's like to be a parent who shops for groceries, she suggests the company should lower their prices temporarily as a sign of good faith to the consumers. This will get the consumer on their side. Her idea is a big hit, but this also means that she has to leave to fly to Los Angeles for a commercial shoot. And this happens to be on Halloween night, which disappoints the kids and Michael Keaton. The rest of the movie is a nice wrap-up of the plot. There's some great scenes that include the girls taking, Michael Keaton to a male strip club, and Keaton almost getting his job back, but then has to bring the kids to the interview.
According to our records, since you and your associates left, production in your division is off by 23%, and costs are up 19%. Do you have any explanation for that?
I'm a little confused here. I'm no longer with the company. I don't know. You might ask Mr. Latham.
We have.
And?
Sorry, Jack. I covered for you guys as long as I could.
You covered for us?
Yeah.
That's a lie. That's not true.
Come on, Jack. Larry and Stan were in here. Now, they already admitted that I covered for them. Now, come on. It's time for you to be a stand-up guy.
Larry and Stan would say anything you wanted them to say. They need their jobs. You want me to be a stand-up guy? Okay, I'll be a stand-up guy. I need my job too, but what's going on here is wrong. If I did such a bad job, why did production go down and costs go up after you fired me? Huh? Look, I don't know what this guy told you. I don't know what he does with his books. I'm a car maker. I make cars. I'm not an accountant. But I'll tell you something. I take a lot of pride in my work.
Dad?
Oh, no, son, you're gonna have to get out of here now. This is a meeting.
Just a minute, Alex. Daddy's talking. I know that's not real popular right now, you know, taking pride in your work. But I did. I cared. You fired me for it. If you ever talk to my kid like that again, I'm knocking you out. Forget the paper. There we go. There we go. That's it. Would you forget the paper?
Ironically, Keaton would be part of the auto industry again in another underrated film 3 years later called Gung Ho. So for me, Mr. Mom is often a forgotten gem from the 1980s, but it's always been one of my favorites, and my appreciation of this film has only grown as I've gotten older. It's a terrific situational comedy with scenes that are, really delightful. I think the movie holds up really well, and, I put in Roger Ebert's reviews because no matter what, whether I disagree with them or not, they're always well thought out, and they're his opinion, and that's all they are. Some fun facts about the film. Actors that were considered for the Jack role include Chevy Chase, Michael Douglas, Steve Martin, John Travolta, Robin Williams, John Goodman, and George Segal. Some actresses that were considered for the Carolyn role: Karen Allen, Jane Curtin, Farrah Fawcett, and Sally Field. For the role of Ron, Dabney Coleman, Jeffrey Jones, Jack Nicholson, and Burt Reynolds were all considered. See, I think Dabney Coleman, it would have been too close to 9 to 5, and Jack Nicholson was too big of a name, along with Burt Reynolds. Michael Keaton actually turned down Splash for Mr. Mom. I think that worked out well for everyone. Tom Hanks is great as the lead in Splash, and though Keaton would have worked well too, I think it just worked out for the best for everyone. In another Splash connection, Ron Howard was offered the job to direct Mr. Mom, but then, of course, turned it down for Splash. All right, we got 3 guests this time to talk about Mr. Mom. We have a first-time guest, which is very exciting. Steve Wright from the Potter Than Hell podcast joins us. We have Eric Sinzak, who eventually will have his own podcast coming up called The Car Crash in the new year. Again, I'm recording this in 2019. I try to keep this as non-dated as possible, but sometimes it's hard. And then we have sports and food writer Bill Roseberry, who's been on before. All right, we get all 3 of them. Let's have fun talking to them, and I will be back next week to talk about a random movie from my DVD collection. So it's always great to have first-time guests, and we have Steve Wright from the Potter Than Hell podcast on today, and it was great to chat with Steve a bit at this year's Rockin' Pod Expo in Nashville, and I heard about his love of movies in addition to all things hard rock and metal, of course, and speaking of Potter and Hell, I really enjoyed the episode from a few weeks ago, which was Best Opening Riffs. And I think I would have ended up picking up all AC/DC. So, though I would have thrown in a little bit of Symphony of the Universe from Sabbath. That would have been on there for me. But I love that episode. I love what you guys do. And before we get into Mr. Mom, which is why you're here, tell everyone a little bit about Potter Than Hell and how it started and where everyone can check it out.
All right. We are a hard rock and metal podcast. We cover a wide range of bands from Kiss to Maiden, pretty much everything in between. We've been doing a little bit of get into a little more extreme stuff once in a while, like a little Slipknot and kind of stuff like that. And it kind of started, my son Dylan, who produces our show and is a co-host on there, he started listening to podcasts, and he was, you need to listen to podcasts. I didn't even know what that was. I was like, what is that? And he introduced it to me, and I got on listening to a couple different podcasts, and I found myself like talking to the podcasts that I was listening to, chiming in. And I would go for my walks or a run, and people would think I'm nuts because I'm like yelling out loud. Like there was one episode of Podcast Rock City and they were doing a game show, and I'm yelling like War Machine, War Machine, and people are looking at me like, what the hell is this guy doing? And myself and my other co-host BC and BB, we sit on my porch like all during the summer and have a couple cocktails and just, talk about rock and metal. So we've been really podcasting for years. It's just never been recorded. So I just wanted to get our own going.
That's awesome. And, it's funny considering talking to yourself. Everyone's on their phone now anyways with their little earbuds. So you were perfectly normal, I'm sure.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. But it was like the older people looking at me like, what is this guy doing?
Oh, sure. For sure. And then just hand them, now you got to just hand them your card about, podcasting and things like that.
Yeah, here, check us out.
Exactly. Well, that's awesome. And so, but you're on today. We're not going to talk. Well, we could talk about music, but for this, we're going to talk about movies. And I gave you a list of films that I'm going to have as upcoming episodes, and you chose this one, the classic from 1983 with Michael Keaton and Terri Garr and Martin Mull. And so the first question I have to ask you is 220 or 221?
I like the 221.
Okay, good. Whatever it takes, right?
That's right. Whatever it takes. 44, 45.
That's right.
46.
So did you first see this when it came out, or was it something you saw on TV, or was it a rental, or what was the first time you saw this, and how did it resonate with you?
Well, I'm actually dating myself. I did see this movie in the theaters when it first came out.
Awesome.
And I saw it with my old girlfriend at the time, and I really enjoyed it. It was a good funny movie to see, and I was only I think I was 13 when I saw it.
Yeah, so it was of course it was I'm a little bit younger, so I saw it on home video, but as a kid it resonated with me because his kids were probably about the same age as I was. And did you see Night Shift before you saw Mr. Mom?
Yes.
Okay, so you already you knew about Michael Keaton and how funny he was and where he could go.
Yeah, Michael Keaton and Henry Winkler in that one. That was a good one too.
Yeah, and Shelley Long. Yeah, that's a great movie to check out as well. So what about Mr. Mom just kind of resonated with you? Was it the one-liners? Was it the scenes? Or was it, being a kid and seeing a dad struggling with that?
I kind of enjoyed the struggle. It was like, here's a guy, he's, used to working in the factory, and you could tell he's a big BSer, when he's talking to the guys in the factory where he's saying, you guys remind me of the Rocky movie, and they're like, he didn't see Rocky, and that kind of thing. And then he's thrown into, he loses his job, and, his buddy knew all about it and didn't say anything to him. And then when he, got home, and then he's, his wife gets the job, and then he's thrown into just like total chaos, and just the experience of it. The guy just like, even the first day, and he's dropping the kids off at school. You're doing it wrong. You're doing it wrong. Just like that kind of stuff. Just like I thought was great.
Oh yeah, south to drop off, moron. I still say that.
That's right.
Or him grocery shopping for the first time. It all seems cliche now, but it really happened. I mean, you got to do if you haven't done anything before. That really, it's a first time for everyone.
I was nowhere near aisle 8.
Yeah. So, yeah, there's some great character actors in this, too, and some big names, actually, considering, but that they don't have huge roles. You have Jeffrey Tambor, who plays his boss, Jinx, and then Christopher Lloyd's in it as well.
Yeah, that was cool. And, I thought Martin Mull, he was the guy, he played his role perfect, I thought, and, you just wanted to knock this guy out because you knew he was eventually going to be making the moves on the wife there.
That's right. But as any good movie, you need a good villain for the most part. And so if you don't hate the guy, it doesn't resonate as much. And as you said, he played that perfect. And he was a stand-up comedian back in the day, so he kind of had that charm. So that great line when, of course, 220 or 221 when Jack's trying to impress him, he just gives this look without saying anything, like, "Yeah, I know you're full of shit."
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Which is great. Also, the kids in the movie, I think, are really good. Like, they don't overact. They still play like kids, but they're cute,
Yeah, I love the kids, and especially when he takes the woobie off the little guy, and the other little kid's like, you had to do it. Just like it's so cool to get like an adult type line off of a kid like that, but it seems very sincere though.
Absolutely, and both kids did really well doing their, the older kid kind of as the wise one, the stage, and then the younger kid who's even growing up too. He's going through that phase. Terri Garr is really good in this, and of course, I'm sure you saw her in Young Frankenstein before that, and Tootsie. And yes, it's an interesting way to look at it today, because now, I mean, of course, women are, executives and things like that. And this was kind of a role reversal, and her having to deal with, Martin Mull and things like that. How did you think that character was portrayed when you first saw it and then viewing it now?
I thought she was portrayed really good, especially for that time. Because like you said, back then, like it wasn't the norm to have a woman in any kind of position of, authority or anything like that. And when she came in and she asserted herself right away when she said, I don't like any of these ideas, and everyone was kind of like, kind of taken aback that she would speak up like that right off the bat.
That's right. And she played that perfectly. And even the other woman because there was another woman in that, and they kind of downplayed her, but even she was trying to warn her in the beginning, like, don't say anything, just kind of listen.
Lay low.
Right. But she didn't. And if it wasn't for her, I don't think the business would have, or at least that account would have succeeded.
Right. And one thing that kind of struck me that you don't really see hardly at all anymore is when she went into that first meeting, everybody was smoking.
Yes.
You don't see that, anytime anymore. You see anybody smoking, they're out in their little hut, or they're out on a porch, or outside. But you don't see anybody smoking indoors anymore. And she walks in that place, and like I think almost everybody had a cigarette going in there.
That's a great point. Have you seen Once Upon a Time in Hollywood yet?
No, I haven't.
Okay, same thing. Like it's supposed to take place in 1969. Everyone smokes, and it's crazy seeing, because nobody does that anymore in film. Like they're making a conscious decision, unless of course it's marijuana or something like that. But that's a whole different story. What did you think about? It was actually her friends, so Terri Garr's friends, who eventually became Michael Keaton's friends. How did you feel about them?
I thought that they kind of felt bad for him in the beginning. And then they, their friendship developed from that. And especially when they took him out to the strip club.
Yes.
That night.
The male strip club.
Yep. And he said, I don't think you're going to be needing this. He gave it to her. He said, what's that? It's the stripper's phone number. He gave it to the other girl.
Right. Well, it's great because, of course, you had Ann Gillian, who played the vamp Joan, who was kind of hitting on Jack the whole time. But the other one that was kind of the underplayed one was Annette, who, of course, played Cousin Eddie's wife in the Vacation movies.
Right. Cool. And I like the poker game with the coupons too. That was pretty cool.
Oh yeah, this movie, I think, for me, still holds up. I actually see it. Many things are funnier now to me because they're more adult humor. How does it hold up for you today as it compared to when you first saw it in the theater?
I think I actually enjoyed it more now with being an adult and being a parent, and some of that stuff kind of rings true even to this day. When he's fighting the washing machine with it when it goes crazy, it's just stuff like that. And the one thing that you don't see now that you saw back then was you had the exterminator at the house, you had the plumber there at the same time, and the lady fixing the TV. You don't fix TVs anymore. You throw them out and you get a new one.
That's right. Yeah, you don't blow a tube anymore. Well, of course, he kicked his shoe through the TV.
I found your problem.
Yeah.
It's the shoe.
That's true. That is totally a flashback to an earlier era. You just none of these service people come out anymore. You just get a new one. And of course, the vacuum cleaner named Jaws, which was great.
Jaws, yeah. And then he had total control over that after. Get in there and clean the kids' room.
That's right. After a while, I think he became so good at it, you never, he almost didn't want to go back to work.
Yeah.
But of course, he does get his job back, and everything is right in the world. But it'd been interesting because today, I think both of them would have continued to work. I don't think she would have stopped because she had proved to herself she could actually do that.
But I mean, even then, if you think about it too, you didn't have the preschools and the daycares that you have now either. So it was a whole different dynamic trying to get kids taken care of before they're at school age.
Absolutely, and just the cost of living was you could have one income and do fine, and nowadays it's especially depending where you live, it's just impossible.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah. So we'll just get into Michael Keaton movies. What are your top 5 Michael Keaton movies?
All right, definitely Mr. Mom. Night Shift is definitely up there. I thought he was a fantastic Batman.
Yeah.
I really enjoyed those 2 Batman movies that he was in. I can't think of the name of the one. I like the one where he was the bad guy with was it Denzel Washington in the hospital?
Oh yeah, yes.
I can't think of that one where he was the bad guy, and he was really, really good as the bad guy.
He's also really funny in the other guys playing with Will Ferrell and Mark Wahlberg.
Yeah, that's really good. I'm trying to think of. That's all that really comes to mind right off the bat.
Okay. He's great. If you haven't seen it, he plays Ray Kroc in The Founder, where he plays the founder of McDonald's. That came out a few years ago.
That one I haven't seen.
Yeah, that's really well done. And then an old-time favorite for me growing up was Johnny Dangerously.
Oh my God. The Lower East Side, it really sucks.
Yeah.
I love that movie.
It's a complete parody on the old gangster movies of the 30s.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. Him and Joe Piscopo in that one.
Oh, so good. My mother shot me once. That was always a gag during that. A couple other great ones. Gung Ho, if you ever saw that one.
Oh, I saw that a while ago. Yeah.
Yeah, where he works for an auto. Actually, ironically, he works for an auto plant in that one too.
Yeah.
Beetlejuice, of course.
Of course.
And
that one I didn't care for. I don't know about that movie. Yeah.
Okay.
I don't know. That one was weird for me.
Well, even just him. I mean, I don't think anybody else could have played that role like him.
No.
Well, this has been great. Thank you so much, Steve.
Absolutely. Hey, I appreciate the plug here you're giving our podcast, and this is great. I love movies, and I'd be happy to come on anytime again.
Awesome. And definitely check out Potter Than Hell. All right, we're back. It's not a first-time guest because he was on for the Iron Man episode, but we're going to talk about Mr. Mom, and it's none other than Eric Sinzak. Welcome back.
Hey, thanks, Brian. Glad to be back.
So, I'm not sure when this is coming out. It may come out when your new podcast comes out, but if it isn't out, let's talk about it a little bit. It's going to be called The Car Crash. It's a media podcast. And again, if you missed the Iron Man episode, we talked a little bit about it, but why don't you give a quick little synopsis about what you want to cover and how it kind of relates to media and your love of all things media?
So it's called The Car Crash Media Podcast. I'm going to be premiering it next year. Hopefully early next year, maybe February, March, something like that. I'm going to be recording a few episodes, talking to a few other podcasters, and focusing on 80s, 90s, early 2000s, just whatever kind of, tickles my fancy. And just sort of, I like movies, music, TV, anime, just sort of stuff that's pop culture related. Big fan of Star Wars, Robotech. Those are my things that I really grew up loving, and but also soundtracks are really huge. I'm a big Blade Runner fan, and Vangelis was one of the things that I really loved. And soundtracks are what I originally wanted to just talk about, but other things I really, wanted to talk about were some of the actual, things like we're talking about today. We were talking about Mr. Mom. That was a great nostalgic movie from, the 80s. And so we did an episode about Iron Man. So I wanted to talk about, something like that. So that's in the Marvel universe, and the Marvel universe is really awesome. There's a lot of stuff in there that we could talk about. And of course there's, tons of movies from back then that I think just, they captured a really great time and era. And of course, composers and soundtracks were really awesome. I love John Williams and people who scored really wonderful soundtracks. And so that's just some of the stuff I'm going to be talking about in my podcast. And of course, I'll be reaching out to other podcasters to see if I can have them on my show. There's a few guests that I know that I'll have on the show. I'm going to be asking some of my friends from the entertainment industry to come on. I know some people in the movie business, some people in the music business to come on. I know some actors and some people in special effects to come on and give some input and insight on some of their experiences in film and TV. So that's just sort of what I'm going to be talking about.
Oh, that'd be awesome. Like, you kind of get the inside baseball, which I love that stuff. And that's kind of what we do here as well. And we'll get right into Mr. Mom. And so the first question I've been asking people if they've seen Mr. Mom, is it 220 or 221? What are you going to pick?
221. Yeah.
Okay.
221.
Whatever it takes,
Whatever it takes. Yeah, that's right.
So great. This movie is, I don't know about you. I think this was the first movie I saw Michael Keaton in. Like, I did see it in the theater because I was too young, but it was definitely a rental that my parents, could plop me in front of the TV with. And I adored Michael Keaton. Like, he was just funny, but you felt like he could be a cool dad and just a perfect character for this film.
Yeah, he was just so perfect for this role. I always saw him as just, he was a little bit of a bumbling dude, but he also seemed to just pick it up and just, he was like, I loved him. The comedy timing of this was just perfect. The writing was great in this movie. And every time I look back on it, I have fond memories of it because you're right. It just seems like this is the movie that I grew up watching like on rentals or just watching like on cable, and it was like my parents were like never worried about me watching this movie when I was a kid. You're right.
And there's so many great scenes, whether it be, him trying to drop off the kids for the first time and the parents are yelling at him and honking at him, and then he goes grocery shopping. And yeah, it kind of seems a little bit cliche now, but it's still hilarious because people go through these things. If you've never done any of these things before, there's certain life instances that are really humorous and John Hughes is the one that wrote this, and he totally nailed those things.
That is something I didn't realize. I didn't realize John Hughes wrote that. But,
yeah,
it does fit. It does fit his comedy style. But yeah, I mean the pick up and drop off stuff when he's going through the line and just you're going the wrong way.
Right.
That's exactly. and I've sort of been I just having kids now and looking back on it and all these things, it's like I've had those days, trying to get everything done and, stuff's not going right. And Kim's at work. My wife is Kim and she's at work and I'm trying to take care of stuff. I relate on a number of levels. And I think most dads who dealt with stuff have thought about this. And almost everybody, in our age bracket has seen this film and remembers stuff like this.
Right. I'm curious if someone younger were to watch this, and it may seem weird to them because it's not a big deal for, women to have their careers. And so Terri Garr kind of almost being a high-powered executive, not executive yet, but she, at an advertising agency, and she was eventually very well respected because she ended up getting the account for the company. People wouldn't really bat an eye at it. But then, I mean, it was a big deal what she had to deal with and what, she had to fight off Martin Mull, who was a great villain.
Martin Mull, yeah.
Yeah.
That's the days before sexual harassment training and dealing with your boss and all that, climbing the corporate ladder and all that. But yeah, you're right. I mean, she was getting the Schooner Tuna account.
That's right.
But yeah, he played the typical handsy boss and wanting to always, and she couldn't tell her husband what was going on because, and then eventually he finds out. But this is a quintessential early 80s snapshot of what life was like for a woman to go back to work or go into the workforce.
Right.
And I think that's really interesting because you're right. A lot of people who are, I guess millennials now, if they were to look at that film, they would say, oh, well, just go talk to HR, go talk to, and just tell them what's going on. This guy's grabbing you. That's not how that worked back then. Those people would, wouldn't have, nobody was there to say this, this is not going to help. They're not going to help you.
Right.
So women just sort of dealt with it on their own. And it's a shame, but it's true. It happened.
It is. And you look at those boardrooms and everyone's smoking and there's like, it's totally it's a boys' room. It's a boys' club. And for her to come in and really be a fish out of water and then to make her point and make her stand and bring something to the table that nobody else was seeing because she was in that world that they were trying to pitch to. Really, it was kind of nice. And so I think a lot of people may have missed that side of the movie and because the fun side is Michael Keaton, but even he had to deal with harassment in his own way from one of her friends. So yeah.
Yeah. Joan. Yeah. Yeah. The bedroom, changing that all around, and then she's laying on it, later on. But yeah, you're right. That's it's when you see it, and they're both living sort of a separate path that they, it was strange. They both took this separate track going a different direction, and then they were like, wait a minute, everything's weird. Know, but it's an interesting study in that time period. I think it's a funny movie. I think they did, a really good job making it. And I love the kids. I love, Dad, my woobie.
Yeah. So actually, they bring up a good point. So as a parent, have you had to deal with a security item that you had to take away from your kid?
Never take away. I've never had to take it away. I've had to sort of gently let them outgrow some things,
right?
And I did it on their own time, but it was like, you're like, hey, this is it's kind of getting a little long in the tooth for
Right.
a couple things here. But, you know, I eventually noticed that, you know, they sort of let themselves do it. And a couple things, the kids got a little, they were like, you know, I'm not doing this anymore on my own. My friends aren't playing with these things.
Right.
So they'd sort of realize after a while, hey, this ain't cool, you know?
Yeah, and that's honestly the best way, because if you push it and it may backfire. But in this case, I think Michael Keaton played it perfectly, and the kid that played Kenny, who had the woobie, he really played that well. It was a nice little scene. Then of course the older boy, it's hilariously, you had to do it. You had like consoling Michael Keaton.
Yeah.
Those are great scenes.
Yeah, that was awesome. Also, I love the grilled cheese.
Oh yeah,
irons the grilled cheese.
Yeah,
this isn't melted. You know, when he hands it to him on the ironing board, he melts it down for him. I thought that was so cool. That was so cool. He's like that, you know, that, and you look at that dad, and that dad's like sitting there, and he's like, I ain't cooking this. Just give it here. I'm just gonna fix it.
It works.
Bam.
It works. You know?
Yeah. I was like, I'm doing laundry. I ain't fixing your grilled cheese. Just give me that damn thing here.
Well, and then he was getting addicted to soap operas, and it was great.
I love it when he finally reaches that turning point where he's like, I cannot let the house get any worse.
Yeah.
I cannot let it go any further. I cannot look any worse than I am now. I have to clean up the house. I have to shave my beard. I have to get in shape. It's like, yeah, it's better. And then he fixes himself up. I like that turning point he makes in the film. I think that's pretty cool. But and he realizes, like, hey, I look like crap. I got to do something.
That's right. Yeah, exactly. And he was wearing the same shirt over and over again. And we had Steve Wright from the Potter and Hell podcast. He was talking about this movie as well, and he brought up a great point. All the repair people that come to fix things, you just don't see that as much anymore. Whether it be the TV or the drapes or whoever, they came over, and it was kind of funny to have everyone at once, all the repair people at once, come and try to fix everything.
Oh yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, because it's like, you know, you don't have a TV guy come to your house, or you don't have. I mean, you might have a plumber, but but a TV guy, you don't have a TV person come to your house.
No, you just buy another TV at this point.
Yeah, just chuck your TV and go buy another one. Yeah, there's so many little things in there that made it a great film, and I really fondly look back on it. My kids have watched it, and some things they get, some things they don't. They'll ask me about it. They're like, what was that? You know, and they're like, oh, that means this, or, you know, that was from, you know, back then. And of course, there's no smartphones, there's no cell phones, which was kind of, you know, interesting. I think, didn't Martin Mull have a car phone?
He did, yeah.
Yeah, and that was probably like considered like super fancy for the time. So, yeah, that's a status symbol of the rich back then, having a car phone, quote unquote.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And then you had mentioned Vangelis, and they of course used Chariots of Fire and the office race that Jack had to partake in, which of course he had to throw because you can't show up the boss.
Right. He's the boss. It's his tournament.
Yep.
So he runs and he trips. Yeah.
And one of the great thing is it shows you how strong this movie is. There's two great character actors that work with Michael Keaton in the beginning, and that's Jeffrey Tambor, who plays his boss, and then Christopher Lloyd's in it as Larry, who's has some funny scenes too.
That's right. And he asked, Jeffrey Tambor comes back over the house and was like, "Not now, kid."
Yeah.
So he gets socked in the face.
Exactly. He's like, "I told you," and then he knocks him out, and the kid's like, one punch. Yeah.
Yeah, that's right.
So when's the last time you watched this? And as you said, it still holds up for you.
It's probably been 2 or 3 years since I've seen it. So, but yeah, I think I found it on Amazon and was scrolling through Amazon one night and saw it, and I was like, come on, we're all gonna watch this. And the kids were like, what is this? And I was like, you're gonna like it. Sit down. I made them sit down and watch it.
I think that's the funny part about movies. So like when I was a kid, there wasn't, and same for you, there wasn't like a ton on. Even when you had cable, there wasn't a ton on. And now there's just so many choices. Like you don't really have to discover anything new because everything's so niche oriented. And I think that's kind of lost today because there's a lot of movies I discovered simply because there was nothing else on.
Yeah, and if you saw something and it was on and you're like, oh, that was kind of cool, I watched it. wait 2 days later and it would be on again, and you're like,
Yeah.
oh, it was okay. Guess I'll watch it again. And then, of course they'd rerun it and beat it into the ground, and there's nothing else. So you just keep watching the same damn thing over and over again. So
Yeah, and it didn't have to be good. But you end up liking it.
no. But that's how I watched Men at Work 50 times, and how I called HBO, hey, Beastmaster's on. That's why I called it that.
Oh, yeah, The Legend of Billie Jean's on for the 35th time, stuff like that.
God, yeah, that movie got played so much. It was crazy.
They did. Oh, and actually, movies that flopped in the theater, they had renewed life because of that. Whether it be like Eddie and the Cruisers and movies like that. So.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And my dad loved that movie. And,
oh yeah.
I mean, if it was on, it was on. It was staying on. I mean, man.
No, totally. I miss those days, but we're old, so that's okay. That's why we have this podcast to for all the other old folks out there. So. Again, thank you so much, Eric, and we'll have you on for yet another movie.
All right, great. Look forward to it.
All right, you loved him on Hoosiers, so we needed another movie to do, and it's not going to be about sports, and that's okay, but it's about life. And what better movie about life, at least for a male trying to become a dad, or at least a full-time dad, doing it on his own, pretty much, and that's Mr. Mom. We got Bill Roseberry back. Welcome back, Bill.
What's going on, Brian?
Well, one thing I've been asking everyone that's been interviewed for this movie, 220 or 221, what do you go with?
220. There is no 221.
That's right. Whatever it takes, right?
Right, whatever it takes, yeah. How about a little shave off that mustache there, Ron?
Yeah. And revs the chainsaw. It's just who better than Michael Keaton to play that role?
Yeah, I was thinking about this when we talked about doing this movie. And my introduction to Michael Keaton was in the movie, the Ron Howard movie Night Shift.
Exactly, that was his debut.
That was his debut, and my parents loved that movie. And whenever I was a kid, we would watch that. And so the first thing I ever remember whenever I think of him is him coming in and doing the Jumpin' Jack Flash thing when he's walking through the morgue.
Right.
And my parents fell in love with him from that. So did I as a little kid. So when this movie came out, we were all excited. And so we watched it immediately. So I'd seen this when I was real little, unlike Hoosiers, which I didn't watch until I was an adult. Mm-hmm. I saw Mr. Mom when it was a new movie. And I just absolutely love it. He's great in it. Everybody's great in it. I mean, from Terri Garr to him to Christopher Lloyd, who doesn't have a great big part in it, but he's great in it too. Martin Mull, Martin Mull, and then Jillian.
And Jillian, yes.
And Jillian,
the vamp. She's the vamp.
Yeah, she was great in it too. So.
What a cast. Yeah. And going back to Michael Keaton, yeah, me too. This was like one of those movies where it wasn't a kid movie, but parents could let their kids watch it. It was that kind of, it was a different era. Like they really don't make movies like this anymore.
No, they don't. And it was one of those things that I know. I heard something now. I didn't have time to look this up or whatever, but I'd heard that there was some controversy here recently over this movie because of the gender role reversal to it, mm-hmm. and all that people were kind of in an uproar about it, that it was, I don't know if it was sexist or whatever it was, which I don't get. I mean, I thought it was empowering for her. It was just a slice of life movie. Is what it was.
If anything, it was ahead of its time. It was kind of in the vein of 9 to 5 in many ways, where they didn't make her a secretary. She was in the bigwigs room, and coming up with deals and proposals, and they didn't dumb it down, for lack of a better word, for her. And no, I think back then you didn't have many two income families. It was like the man went to work and the mom stayed home, and actually, I think it was great because today I think people probably watch and don't see what the big deal is. But you got to remember, this is almost 40 years ago. So
What was it, 1983? Is that
1983. That's right.
Yeah.
So I thought it was a nice portrayal, and it was written by John Hughes. So
Right. Yeah, I've used that in some trivia nights actually. I've done some movie and music trivia nights, and I've done some John Hughes categories, and I've used Mr. Mom movie quotes for that because he had written it. So, and I mean, he was such a genius and in the top of his game throughout the 1980s.
Absolutely.
With everything he did.
Well, think about 1983. He wrote this movie and he wrote National Lampoon's Vacation, and both of them are based on his life experiences. Mr. Mom is based on his life because his wife went away for a few weeks on a business trip, and he had to take care of the kids, and he didn't know how to do anything because he'd basically been with his wife since college, and before that, his mom did everything. So, if people think this is kind of cliche and everything, well, it happens to people,
Right, and I have buddies that are like that moved out and moved right in with a girl, and they don't know how to do. Like me, I've been single so long and lived on my own. I mean, I can cook. I cook dinner for myself all the time. I do all my own laundry. I do everything.
Yeah.
So none of that's hard for me. I could do a lot of those things. I don't have kids, but
right.
The home stuff I know how to do because I have to do it. Nobody else is going to do it.
That's right. Right. So we both might have the problem with South to drop off, moron, that type of thing. So
yeah, right, yeah.
Which again, you mentioned the quotes. What are some of your favorite quotes of this movie? Because it's filled with them.
One of them that I was thinking about today was when he's having the talk with Kenny about his woobie.
Yes.
And it's time for Kenny to give up his woobie, and he sits him down and he says, "Kenny, buddy, it's time to give up your woobie." And he's like, "No." And he says, "Man, I get it. Woobies are nice. They're a lot of fun. They're great at first. But, after a while, you move on from your woobie and you're on the street and you're trying to score electric blankets. And then before you know it, you're strung out on bedspreads."
Right.
And the kid's just staring at him.
Yeah, and it's brilliant dialogue. I mean, that is great writing, and it's delivered perfectly by Michael Keaton.
The dream sequence, or it's not really a dream sequence, but like the daydream sequence.
The soap opera kind of thing.
The soap opera,
yeah.
The Young and the Restless. That's great too.
Oh, yeah.
The whole thing with that, and of course the part where where they take him to the male strip club. That's right too.
And actually that's a good role reversal because I think in 80s movies it's always gratuitous TNA and things like that, and then you actually get it the other way. He became one of the gals.
Yeah, I love it when they're dropping him off, and he's like, he reaches in his pocket and he pulls out that piece of paper, and he's like, "Hey, I don't think I'm gonna need this. You guys keep it." And they're like, "What is it?" And he goes, "It's this dancer's phone number."
Right. Yeah, and actually, one of the women that he's friends with, that's Miriam Flynn, who is also Cousin Eddie's wife in Vacation. So there you go.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, the lady that stayed home and watched the kids.
Yeah,
I can't
Annette.
remember that character. Annette, yeah.
Yes.
Annette that stayed home and watched the kids. I didn't even realize that.
Yeah, and so again, 1983, good year.
And what's the character actor's name that played his boss, the one that played Jinx?
Oh, Jeffrey Tambor.
Yeah, Jeffrey Tambor. I mean, Jeffrey Tambor is a great character actor too, and he was great in that movie too. I love it when he tells him, he goes, "You talk to my kid like that again, I'm going to knock you out."
Right.
And when he yells at the house, one punch, yeah. Yeah, the kids were great too. I mean,
yeah, they did really well. And actually, when you talked about the Woobie scene, the Alex who played the older boy got the punchline. Like, "You had to do it, Dad." That was perfect.
Right. Yeah, and I don't know. I thought I read sometime that those two never really went on and did much else after that, did they?
No,
they played Alex and Kenny.
No, they really didn't. And what's cool is Shout Factory, who has the best re-releases for Blu-rays, they actually did a special feature for this film, and they actually had both kids on there, and they were talking about their experiences and how much they loved working with both Michael Keaton and Terri Garr. But yeah, I think it looks like the kid who played Kenny is still acting. He's doing like TV series, so it's probably maybe lesser known TV series, but nothing major film wise. And Alex, just looking quickly at his IMDb page, he's still working too. So I think they're doing like TV shows and things like that. So that's cool.
Wow, I never noticed seen him in anything else really. It's not like watching City Slickers and there's Jake Gyllenhaal as Billy Crystal's kid or something like that, or Anthony Michael Hall in Vacation, something like that. Yeah.
Right. Or Last Emperor, you see Christian Bale. And as a kid, it's tough for a child actor to really, and actually that was one of our episodes, the best child actors, and they didn't necessarily have to turn in anything, but it's amazing how many of them really. I mean, you have your one-offs like Elizabeth Taylor and Natalie Wood and people like Drew Barrymore, but it's hard. Right. It's really hard.
Yeah. What was I gonna say? There was another part in there I was thinking about too. I like the part where he's at his house and they're having the dumbass, race or whatever, and he was
at the party, the company
ass
party
at the party, at Ron's house, and I mean he was gonna kick his ass, and he looked over at her and he saw the look on her face, and he just went down and let him win, and God, that guy was such a douche. But that's a funny thing about stuff like that. It's like there's some kind of as guys, you can always look at another guy and tell the guy that's a douche and has. Sometimes women can't pick up on that, but then women can do the same thing with other women that sometimes us as guys are oblivious to.
That's right.
It's just funny how that works. But.
It's a sixth sense, and you know what? Martin Mull played that character so great because you need a villain that you hate, and you buy into it. You really hate him, and the stuff he does, you can kind of tell from the beginning. He's like one of those guys, especially back then. And Carolyn, Terri Garr, holds herself really, really well and defends herself. And she does well by her own merits. She proves herself. And even if she might have been hired for the wrong reasons, she proved that she deserved to be there with everyone else.
Oh man, well she was so hot back then. Not young Frankenstein hot.
No, but that's like 10 years fired.
Later, but. Yeah, she was still a very, very attractive woman.
Well, she was in Tootsie too, so.
Yeah, that's right. I've never watched that.
Oh, great movie! You got to check that one out.
I know. It's Mike always gets on me. How have you not seen Tootsie? But I've never watched.
Bill Murray's in it, and it's of course Dustin Hoffman and Dabney Coleman. It's great. It's great.
And another funny thing about Mr. Mom for me personally, and I think I mentioned this to you just when we were talking about this. This is like my hookup movie. Started to see a girl or whatever, and we'll watch this movie, and it's like my closer. I don't get it. It's like Mr. Mom is my closer.
Well, it's really a non-offensive movie, and it's funny, and it's kind of got those life experiences that everyone can get behind. So,
right, it's kind of a fun date movie too. I mean,
it is.
It's fun for guys and girls. It's just fun for everybody.
Absolutely. And look, when you have a great script from a legendary screenwriter, eventual director, and a great cast that delivers it, it's tough to go wrong.
My mom and I were talking about this the other day too, and I had told her I was going to do this, and she loves Michael Keaton and loves that movie.
Sure.
But she was talking about how he's kind of gotten away from doing stuff like that now. Now every time you see him, he's doing serious roles and stuff.
Right.
And I wish he would go back to doing some of that kind of stuff because he was a great comedic actor in the 80s.
Absolutely.
Even early 90s.
Well, one movie that's relative, I mean, it's not new because it's been out since 2010, but he has a great cameo, not a cameo, but a side role in The Other Guys with Will Ferrell and Mark Wahlberg, where he plays their police chief, and he's really good in that.
I watched that one time, and I wasn't real big on that movie, so I don't remember much about it. But.
We're actually going to do an episode on it, so maybe I'll get you into it. But he's got some great lines in it where he really delivers. But, in the 80s, after this movie, he did Johnny Dangerously, which I think is criminally underrated. Talk about quotes galore. Anything from Fargo Ice Hole and all those Joe Piscopo lines, and there's great stuff.
My mother hung me from a hook once.
Yeah.
Yeah. I actually used the Farging Iceholes quote the other day for my movie quotes at the trivia night that I emceed. So yeah, I love Johnny Dangerously. And another movie that I think is underrated that he did, which I love, is Multiplicity. If you've ever seen that.
I have.
Yeah, that I always thought that was great too. And he kept making copies of himself. So
that's right.
It's great movie.
It was cloning before cloning got big,
Right. I think he had like 6 versions of himself.
He did, and they're all off in some way because you can't keep splitting your genetic makeup. And the other great movie that came after Johnny Dangerously was Gung Ho. Yeah, that's a fun one.
Yeah, Gung Ho. I haven't seen that since I was a kid, but yeah, that was fun too.
And then of course Beetlejuice.
Right. Yeah. I haven't seen that in a long time either.
So wrapping up, this movie still holds up well for you, and you'd recommend it to people. And do you have any final thoughts?
Oh, absolutely. I think it holds up. It's like we've been saying, it's just great for everybody. It's a great family movie. It's a great date movie. It's just, it's a guy movie. It's a girl. There's a little bit of everything in there. It's empowering for women, for what she went through. Like we were saying, the way she excelled at her job at a
boys club.
Right. Yeah. It was just it's a great movie. It's one of my favorites, actually.
Yeah. Well, I'm really glad we had you on for it, and hopefully we'll introduce the younger folks to it, and people that haven't seen it in a while will hopefully go back and return to it.
Yeah, absolutely, man. I appreciate you having me on. I love doing this. So, anytime we got a movie that I know about, and I'm really stoked to sit down and talk to you about it.
Awesome. You have an open invitation, as does your buddy. So good talking to you, Bill.
Okay, thanks Brian.
Hey, this is Brian Davis, and you might know me from the Damn Good Movie Memories podcast. And now get ready for the Bad Beat Show on thatmetalstation.com from 11 p.m. to 1 a.m. Eastern every Wednesday night. I'm going to play some kick-ass hard rock inspired by the blues, because after all, the foundation of all things rock and metal is, of course, the blues. So join me every Wednesday night for the Bad Beat, because even when you lose, you still win. We are officially on Spotify now, so if you don't use iTunes, if you don't use the Podbean app, you can go to Spotify and get all of our past episodes. You can stream it on there, so if you're a Spotify user, you can go find Damn Good Movie... I can't even say my own podcast. Damn Good Movie Memories. Yes, I know what I'm talking about. I'm the host, right? Okay, so go to Spotify, look for Damn Good Movie Memories. You can stream all of that stuff. And yeah, so if you don't want to use iTunes, you don't want to use Podbean, you can use Spotify as well. All right, before we sign off, we do have t-shirts are available for sale. All you have to do is go to TeePublic, that's TeePublic.com, and you can get your very own Damn Good Movie Memories t-shirt. You can get all sizes, any gender, you can get whatever you want just at the tip of your fingers. So just go to TeePublic.com, look up Damn Good Movie Memories, and you can get your very own t-shirt. If you enjoy this podcast and are an iTunes user, please do the show a favor and head on over to the official iTunes page for Damn Good Movie Memories. Be sure to leave a rating and a review. This will allow the show to appear higher in the algorithm and spread the joy of this podcast to the masses. If you are not an iTunes user, you can still listen and subscribe on Podbean at damngoodmoviememories.podbean.com. Be sure to like us on Facebook under our Damn Good Movie Memories page. You can also listen to a limited number of episodes on YouTube. I hope you enjoyed this week's episode, and be sure to tune in next week for an all-new episode of Damn Good Movie Memories.
I am Dr. Fuck.
And I'm the Absolute Alcoholic.
And we are part of the Rock and Metal Combat Podcast.
We are the Rock and Metal Combat Podcast.
That's right. And the way you can check us out is we are on iTunes and also Podbean. And we forgot a review recently. I got this review right here. It says right here, it says, Rock and Metal Combat Podcast is the greatest podcast in the world, and it's my #1 podcast, signed by Science. Now, and then science also says... Science also said, my second favorite podcast is It Doesn't Matter, the rest suck. Rock and Metal Combat Podcast on iTunes and Podbean. Check it out.
Science!
Are you ready for the hottest new podcast out there? Check out the Vieira Vault, featuring none other than Dr. Fuck Ralph Vieira. You will hear personal stories and personal songs from the vault. There ain't nothing else like it. The one, the only, the original Vieira Vault on Podbean, Stitcher.com, and iTunes.
Spreaker.
God damn it.
Hey, this is Stephen Michael from the Growing Up Rock podcast. If you're like me and my co-host Sonny Hollywood Pooney, you grew up loving hard rock and metal music. Check out our podcast where we talk to bands and artists that help create the soundtrack to our lives, along with playing some killer new and old deep tracks of kick-ass guitar-driven rock and roll. Find us wherever you find your podcast to listen to. That's the Growing Up Rock Podcast, GROWINUPROCK. And feel free to hit us up at Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at Growing Up Rock. So sit back and crank it up.